So, the Don't Rush Challenge has happened, and it has helped with one thing. We now know for a fact that all that supposed beauty is just makeup.
Welcome back to Battle of the Sexes.
Welcome to Break Time on Westside, your number one break time podcast, coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. The man on the mic is Sir Denver B, self-isolating like most corona people should. So if you guys hear any echo in the background, please bear with us for this episode. There's some changes that are happening in the room that I use for the studio, so there might be a couple of sound bugs here and there because it's a little more empty than it normally is. But that being said, we've got an episode to do. And to kick this off, I do have to start from a very interesting standpoint. So me, my mom, and my brother were having a discussion not too long ago, just a couple of days ago. And my mom's a psychologist, so she tends to deal with a lot of people around our age, mostly people our generation. So she does kind of have an idea of some of the shit that goes down, but she didn't know how far it went up until we started telling her, because we have a pretty good relationship and we can be open with her about a lot of shit. So we decided to elaborate what it's like, how we've got shorties who belong to the streets, we've got niggas who belong to the streets, and at some point we actually started talking about some of the friends who have kids right now and they are married, they're in early to mid 20s, they're pretty much they're not independent single moms, but they're single moms. And it did raise a pretty interesting phenomenon, because a lot of these single moms are gonna try getting married at some point in the near future, especially since they're in their 20s and shit. I don't think there's a lot of these single ladies, whether you're in a relationship or not. The fact that you're not married, you're technically still a single mom. I know at some point that they're gonna want to get married. I don't think there's going to be very many of them that will be like, you know what, screw this, I'm done with guys, I'm done with trying to add children, I'm done with trying to be with men or some shit, I'll just focus on me and me alone. There's obviously very few people that will do that. And it did kind of bring up this whole thought process of, there's gonna be so many husbands, there's gonna be so many parents whose kids aren't exactly theirs, where you find out that your father isn't really your dad, or your mother told you that, but your mother married some other guy and that other guy's put another baby in her, and now you have like a step brother or a step sister or some shit. And especially with the rate at which people are divorcing and separating, this shit is going off the rails. It is seriously going off the rails, because I'm foreseeing a future, and it's something that has started happening, where people are pretty much outsourcing parenthood. You find that one person goes, dates, or just sleeps around with another person, pull-out game is weak, shorty gets pregnant, kid is born, kid is left with one of the parents, because we know that there are some ladies that would actually leave their baby with the father and just disappear. It's happened before. And eventually you'll find that at some point the parent will go and date again and remarry, or marry, will date again and probably produce other kids, either through marriage or from another date. And then it continues time and again. And then you'll have a lot of step-parent situations, and father not being in the picture type of situations, mother not being in the picture type of situations. And it's becoming a little too rampant. On top of that, it means that there's gonna be a lot of kids in the future with a lot of parents that aren't their parents, and their parents having kids with other people. So at the end of it, you're gonna see a ton of step sibling situations whereby it just feels like you're gonna be a father to two kids from two different baby mamas who'll probably have married and gotten another guy, or will be with another guy who's produced another kid for them. I hope I'm sort of making sense with this, because essentially what it means is your two kids from two different baby daddies are pretty much leaving you with a child, and whichever guy you're marrying or being with at the time is going to take care of a kid that will be theirs and a kid that won't be theirs. And that's where a lot of issues come in, by all means, there's step sibling situations where people have been super happy, where people have worked conducively, have related with how would I call it, with their step siblings, and whether from the main nuclear family or even from the family outside, and they've gone on to actually do quite well together. But for the most part, step families have issues. They have a ton of issues, and I don't think we're actually seeing this, or at least I don't think a lot of the people in our generation are actually seeing that this is something that's going to become a reality. And it's a very, very huge problem, because if you've noticed, there's been a ton of single moms coming up, and there's a ton of guys that are dropping kids and disappearing. I'm not saying this to spite at men or to talk shit on single moms. I'm just stating this because it's a matter of fact. There are a ton of single moms. They're good ones, they're bad ones, but essentially there's a ton of single moms that have been coming up. And it's becoming a norm now, because nowadays, I'm not gonna say that this is something that men or boys do, but there's some creatures with dicks that go, put in a baby, and then disappear. And now it becomes this super huge issue where the burden is left to the woman to take care of the child. Deadbeat fathers exist, deadbeat mothers exist, and single parenthood is on the rise. Because it's on the rise, it's ruining a lot of the nuclear family dynamics that do lead to a much better raised child. And I think that's what I'm pretty much trying to get. The single parent dynamic, the single parent norm is ruining a lot of the value systems that create a much more balanced, much more well-raised child. Now, of course, there's people that have been raised by single parent families who've succeeded and gone on to do a fuck ton of things. But when you look at a good number of them, they tend to have some issues here and there. You find that some young girls that will chase around old niggas, the ones who just want people that are super mature, people who are like twice their age and so on, someone who's old enough to be their father or their grandfather, are having daddy issues. And men aren't immune from that shit either. They might chase mommy issues. Hell, they might chase daddy issues if they're gay. And because of that, it becomes this big issue that we're ignoring that's just slowly coming up. And it goes even beyond daddy issues and mommy issues. You'll find that for a lot of ladies, for a lot of girls, they might not have a proper idea of which man to marry. They won't know what an alpha male is because they weren't shown a proper male figure while they were growing up. There's this thing called the Oedipus complex. If you feel like you're interested in some level of theory and education, you can go look into it. If you don't know what it is, it means that you are attracted to your mother if you're, into women, or your father if you're into men. So what it is that happens is you will be attracted not necessarily to them, but you will be attracted to people that have qualities of theirs. And because they have those qualities, because you recognize them, you'll be more attracted to them. And if you look at a single parent family, like let's say a lady's raising their daughter, you might find that they might lack an alpha male, and it means that her idea of the perfect guy, of Mr. Right, might be very skewed, or it might just be based off of what they've seen, whether it's in movies, whether it's in series, whether it's the pastor, whether it's a neighbor's father. They will find their compass of what an alpha male is. With men, it also does come in, because if you are raised in an abusive family where you find that probably the man used to beat the wife, you'll find that it becomes harder to gauge how it is to be a really good man, which is why you find that people who've been raised in families where the parents had an abusive relationship, they tend to have those same exact qualities. Of course, it can be the exact opposite, and the person treats their woman with the most amount of respect, or the woman finds the guy that will never hit them, and so on and so forth. But a lot of times that does happen. And I think the message I'm trying to pass is we're having too many single parent families, and it's really gonna screw up this coming generation. When you have a ton of single parent families and people belong to the streets, then it's gonna screw up the next generation, because they're not gonna have a proper value system. Because the closest level of society that they're gonna have is not gonna be balanced enough. That's why you're gonna find a fuck ton of women saying that, niggas ain't shit and all, and having shitty choices in men, and having men that will probably not know how to treat them nicely, and then they'll complain that they can't find women. Like, I hope I'm making sense here. And you have to kind of ask yourself, why the hell do marriages fail? Because when you look at it, a lot of times you end up feeling like shit. You'll end up finding that marriages fail, that people fall out of love because of what I'd probably call expectations. Because when you look at it, when you're going to marry someone, you're pretty much going to be them for the rest of your life. So you expect some things to happen. And you believe that, once I get married to them, that we'll either continue in this same exact path that we've been following, or things will get better. That's just how we are as human beings. If we were pessimists, then obviously we wouldn't bother getting married, because we'd be like, well, it'll all just go downhill from here and there, blah, blah, blah. Of which I will discuss at a later time why it is that a lot of guys nowadays are against marriage. But yeah, those do exist. So when you look at it, I think both sides usually tend to have very shitty expectations. Okay, I won't call them shitty. I'll just say they're not very realistic. And just hear me out. So you'll find that a lot of women expect a lot from men. So you find that if your man's was always chilling with the boys, if you thought that getting married to him will mean that he'll give you more time, then I'm sorry. It's not gonna change shit for you. Because if he just wants to spend time with the boys, or if he wants to spend most of his time with the boys, him getting married to you might even mean that he'll want to spend even more time with the boys, because now you're locked in. Him going back to you every so often was probably mainly a situation of, I don't want my woman to leave me. If the guy was a drunkard, if the guy used to party a lot, and you expect him to change once you get married, hell, maybe even once you get a kid, then you might just be playing yourself, because there's not that many guys that are willing to change. It goes both ways, because there's guys that have different expectations from women. So you find that there's obviously the nagger, the clingy woman, the self-entitled ones, the whiners, the types of women that probably complain a fuck ton, the ones that will bring all sorts of hell down on you simply because you didn't pick up their call, or you didn't spend time with them, or you're spending too much time with the guys, or she probably wants something and you said no. They exist. And sometimes you find that as a guy, you're like, you know what, probably once we get married and she knows that she's mine for good, then probably she'll chill out, because maybe she's been bringing out a lot of these issues because she's suspected that I'm cheating. And a lot of times there are very untrustworthy women who will not trust you and will bring all sorts of hell for that. But you find that once you get married, shit doesn't change. It doesn't change for a second. You find that now the noise is even more. You're leaving work at 5, you go meet up with the boys, you decide to have a drink or two, maybe till like 9-10, then you can head home. You're being called at 7:30 and you're being asked, yo, where the fuck are you? Why aren't you home yet? I know you left the office at 5. Why aren't you in the house yet? And don't make that face, ladies. I know some of you are making a face. Y'all exist. Such women exist. And it does become a bit of an issue for us guys, because sometimes we just want to chill with the guys. Sometimes we want to take a bit of time before we come to the house. Maybe we just need to de-stress and we need to trust someone. And sometimes that person can't be you. So, of course, it'll bring an issue. That's when you find that a lot of people will cheat, because you expected them to change and then they're not changing. And then someone else pops up and is offering you a different experience, possibly better. You'll find people switching sides and possibly going for the side piece. That's why you find that there's a fuck ton of cheating nowadays, because what you want and what you have aren't matching up. And the problem was, you didn't accept a compromise. You chose to ditch under the carpet so that you can probably hope that it'll magically disappear. Obviously, when you have expectations and you expect them to change, especially once you get married, I'm sorry, that shit won't change. And hell, I'm probably the worst. I'm probably the last person to give such advice. Hell, I'm single. I'm not even married. I don't even have a girlfriend. But I have enough friends who've been married, and I have friends who are married, plus I did talk to my parents before this, and I made sure I counter-checked a bunch of things. So at least I know for a fact. People do fall out of love, and people have certain expectations that usually don't end up working out because they expected a 180 change. And you can't make someone change like that. I think the only thing that's ever made people change to some degree is something life-threatening. It's usually some life-changing, life-threatening type of shit that makes people change. But that being said, I think as a generation, what should we be doing so that we can start creating much better marriages? Firstly, pull-out game needs to be worked on, and birth control needs to be a thing. Like, I don't think I'm gonna stress away from saying this. Safe days aren't safe nowadays. And if you're gonna go in as a guy and your pull-out game is weak, wear a condom, please. Or probably when you can go for the male birth control option, because I hear now it's available. You can probably get it. It's supposed to be birth control that lasts about 13 years. But for the most part, the safest option right now, I can tell you as a guy, use a condom. And watch how you dispose the condom. Because like I said in a previous episode, some shorties just want to trap you. Some shorties see you as a pretty ideal guy who's got good genes that would make a pretty good baby or would be an amazing father. And they'll trap you. Secondly, before I even go to the secondly, ladies, birth control isn't such a bad thing. Hell, it might bring a bit of weight gain, and if your nigga has a problem with it, you can come to some of us niggas. We're into thick women. So you should probably get into that. But go talk to your gyna, get the best birth control option for you, and try and prevent yourself from producing children randomly. If you haven't. If you have, hell, I'd probably just say at this point, just hope that you get a good enough husband. I just hope and pray that you get a good husband, that you guys will stay together and you won't have a lot of multiple family situations where your man's has like 2-3 different kids from 2-3 different women. Secondly, we need to stop putting funny expectations. Always assume that the shorty that you're having right now, the kind of behaviors that she's having are the ones that you're gonna get for life if you want to marry her. So if you're ready to go in with that, then be ready for it. Be ready to deal with it for the rest of your life. If you seem to have a problem with it, it's better if you end the relationship rather than you get married, you start producing children, and then you're like, you know what, fuck it, I don't love you anymore. I don't think this is working, I'm out. Divorces can be hectic. Divorces are nasty. They bring out the worst in people, and it ends up screwing up the kid or kids in that matter. Then again, I will tell you, if you expect so much from someone, then you better be sure that they're gonna live up to it. Otherwise, just be ready to compromise on the type of person that you're with at the time. Because hell, everyone hides a little bit of themselves. And once people get married, that's when you find a lot more of that shit coming out. So make sure you take your courting time seriously, date someone seriously, and try and find out exactly who this person is before you get married to them. That way, I think we can bring back the marriage with both parents, and we can kind of kill this slow rising problem of outsourced parenting and broken marriages. Or should I say also single parenthood. Anyways, that is a very educative piece of content for this week, courtesy of Battle of the Sexes. It has been me, Sir Denver B. If you have any comments, criticisms, feedback, or just want to say hi, you can hit us up on IG at Breaktime on Westside, or on Twitter you can hit me up on my personal Twitter handle at Bagaka the D, the BND are capital. I will see you guys later.